Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me, in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Greg Tankersley. Now, Greg is from McAlpine, and McAlpine probably need no introduction. However, we'll give them an introduction. If you look up McAlpine as architects in America, their work goes beyond there. But if you look them up as that, I'm not going to talk about awards or published and all the rest. You will find them in every awards. You will find them and where they've won awards. You'll find them in just about every major publication that has anything to do with beautiful homes. They create incredible spaces, and it's craftsmanship that actually wins at the end of the day. But the craftsmanship comes from the thinking at the start. And I'm lucky enough to have Greg to share his story and the knowledge of McAlpine and how it became and how much fun they have doing it. And I think this is like a key factor. So, Greg, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
It's so good. And we've just had a little warm-up chat, and it's been fascinating already. Let's kick off with, like architecture. There's lots of things that you could have chosen to do with life. And I've spoken to people before, and there's the way people come to the word architecture as being a career of what they do. Mm-hmm. Tell me from, like you're a kid born somewhere, and at some point you designed something or decided to design something, and at some point you discovered that there was this word architecture, and it meant what you were already thinking about.
Well, it's kind of funny. I sort of came in the career through the back door. I grew up on a farm from farm in Alabama, pretty humble beginnings. I've done all the old Southern things, like I've picked cotton and baled hay and done all those sort of things. So I didn't even know an architect. As a matter of fact, I'm the first person in my family who went to college, but I was always able to draw. Even my mother tells me her earliest memories of me are sitting in front of the television and drawing. There was just paper everywhere. I was just an incessant drawer, and that was just something I popped out of the womb doing. When I decided to go to college, my parents were sending me to college, and my father never even graduated high school, it was kind of a big thing. They were spending a lot of money to do it, which I think was $1,000 a year back then, wow. Which was a lot of money for them. And so I thought about going to school in art. But coming from a responsible family, I thought that would be a waste of my parents' money, that I need to do something that I could get a job doing.
Yeah.
Because I've just always worked, and my family's always worked, and we were just workers. And so I toured the school and went through all the artistic programs and everything. And I looked at architecture, and I thought, well, that sounds responsible.
I love that.
And like I said, I've never met an architect. I did not know. I knew you drew buildings. That's all I knew you did.
Yeah.
and so I started, and oddly enough, just found out I was good at it.
Yeah, right.
It was literally just by accident that I just sort of like stumbled into it, but it was all just to be kind of a responsible son that I could,
Yeah, my
take
parents
me
are,
proud.
yeah, my parents are going without basically so I can have. So
Yeah, yeah.
don't
So I'm not
just,
going to do something foolish with this money. I need to be able to get a degree to have a job. So I needed to eat.
isn't that an interesting thing? And you think about, the parents that, like your parents could have gone, well, here's your choices. And think about the
Yeah.
number of people where their parents go, here's your choices. I've got a guy who works with me and he's a lawyer, but he doesn't study law. He doesn't practice law. He drafts. He drafts. That's what he does. And he's like, I hated law. I hated it when I studied it. I hated it when I worked in it. I just it he said, but I really wanted to do something that meant something. I mean, not that law
Well,
doesn't, but that was his thing.
and there's a theme that runs through my life, as we'll talk about, but no one has ever, I have not ever known enough to know the word no. And so there's a kind of an old saying in the South, if the famous last words of a redneck are, hold my beer and watch this. And so there's a bit of, or there's a lot of redneck in me that I just move forward. I don't understand the dangers, I'm not a worrier.
Yeah,
I'm a stressor. I'm just going to do this.
just
And
give
a
it
lot of times, let's just do it. Let's do it, and we'll figure it out.
yeah.
And a lot of times that's fearless, and a lot of times that's foolish, and you never know until you get through it.
I was about to say, in hindsight, you can go, well, foolishness got me in, but
I won't do
fearlessness
that
what got me
again.
out. Yeah, exactly.
I'll do that again. Or that was great.
I love, I love, I'm sure you get this. As you get older, people tell you that what you should and shouldn't do more. And I'm a person who goes, I wouldn't say I'm an extreme sportsman by any step of the imagination. Like, but I kind of have this thing as I get older, I go, well, I didn't get to do that when I was younger. So now is the time to do it before I can't do it. So give it a go or die trying. Like what does it matter? Like what does it matter? It's all about living. And
Yeah.
you're gonna calculate your risks to some degree, but you're maybe not gonna look as deep as others would. I have a friend and she lives in Fernie in Canada, and we were talking the other day about skijoring, I think they call it, where they tow you on your skis behind a horse around a track. And
Okay.
I said, I want to do that. And she goes, really? And I said, yeah. And I said, have you done it? She's like, yeah. And she's in her 20s. And
Mhm.
I said, have you done it? And she goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. She said, I often ride the horse. And I said, okay, if I come, can I do that? And she's like, sure, I've got a fat old horse that we could tow you around with. I said, okay, I'm going to come. I'm going to do it. And then other friends of mine, when I've said, "Hey, I'm doing this. It's on my goal sheet," they like, "You're
Mhm.
mad. You're
Yeah.
mad." And I go, "Yeah, probably. Yep."
You know, I,
But
I have found, Adrian, so many people live their life in fear, and so
mhm,
many decisions are based on fear, and that to me is the most useless emotion,
yeah,
because it just holds you back from so much. And when we live in the world of dreams
mm,
and
mm,
creation, and all that should be done without fear. And so I think anytime that you sit and worry or fear or anything like that, I just never trust those decisions.
yeah.
Um,
I
I was
think
I
I
go
like you with
I
that.
think I think when you move forward that way, it's not the absence of fear. It's just doing it anyway. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because and that is kind of courageous.
I
It
think
doesn't mean,
all that growth is in backing yourself to pull it off. And as long as you're not risking anybody else particularly, um, yeah. It's I've just read a book called Who Not How, and by guy Dan Sullivan, and it's always like, well, when you do one of those, leaps into the unknown that you're
Mhm.
backing yourself to land in, um, it's always who else is around, or who will you need if you get yourself into trouble, or who will it be that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And it's not how, it's just who's in my team, who's in my greater infrastructure, who can I call. It's like that lifeline
Well,
thing.
my partner Bobby and I've talked a lot about this, and I mean we both came from very loving families, but we were both the ones who left home and didn't go back home.
Yeah.
Um, but we always knew we had great love at our back, and that allows you to walk out into the world with that sort of courage because it's back there,
Mm.
and it's pushing you forward. And so I think that's something he and I have always given each other as well. And any harebrained idea that either of us have wanted to do, we've always said yes to each other.
Uh-huh.
I've often joked that I could go to him tomorrow and say, yeah, I've decided I'm going to become a woman. And he'd go, that's a great idea. Let's do it.
Let's work on that.
Let's do it. I mean, when I wanted to move to New York, and I said, let's open up an office in New York. He said, great, let's do it. I'm sitting in my office in Palm Beach, same thing. I said,
Yeah.
let's open an office in Palm Beach. He goes, okay, great.
Let's do it.
So,
Like let's
let's
make
do
that
it.
happen.
And some
Tell
and some things in our 40 years have been failures, and some things have been successes, but they kind of balance each other out. But just having that sort of unconditional love and support,
Mhm.
not only with each other, but also people that we love and support.
Mhm.
They feel that as well. And to me, that's what life is about, that there's this invisible thing that is pushing you
Yeah,
to
or
do
dragging you
something.
towards one or the
Yeah,
other
that's
or both.
fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fine. Whatever it is, it's a forward motion.
yeah. I think that thing when and when we're self, when we're looking into ourselves and we recognize that maybe there's a point of fear that we're going, oh, why aren't I moving forward? Um, it that self-reflection at that point of going, hold on, refocus, where do I want to be? What do I want? Not necessarily about what do I want, like what do I want in my head? Where's the opportunity here? Rather than just holding back and not taking the step. Um, then you get to back yourself again, and you go back to that thing, you're saying about growing up, and whether that be baling hay or picking cotton or whatever it is. In a farm there's a million jobs where it's
Mhm.
just hands on. Most of
Yeah.
them would have some form of risk in them to your personal safety at some point, with machinery and
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that. So you become a practical thinker for your own survival. And with that, you also become a practical thinker oh, the ones who survive do, I suppose, become a practical thinker in the analytics of what something takes. You see how it's done. You then maybe even modify how it's done as things change and as you see better ways. And I always think that to some degree, architecture has an element of that, because you've always got these new elements that are coming in. You're still going to do, I'm going to say the same thing. You're still going to put something on a piece of land that's significant and does something. But the way you approach it has these multifaceted pieces that come together because of the people that you're doing it with. And when you jump, it's like an adventure every time. Every client's like an adventure.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I mean, everybody that ever approaches me, I always tell them what, this journey that we're about to go on, because building a house is foolish. It's absolutely foolish. If you want a house, there are plenty of them out there to go buy.
just go get one.
Go get one. There are tons of them out there. But people come to us because they have not been able to find home. They haven't been able to find that. And so they know they've got to make it. And so they drag that brand of foolishness to our door. And we're similar creatures. And so I always tell people, I said, this is going to try the best of marriages. It's expensive. It's going to have its ups and downs. But I said, it is so worth it. And I always remind people that this is nobody's making you do this. This is not a colonoscopy. You have to do that. This is something you're paying a lot of money and you're spending a lot of time to do. So I said, you should enjoy it. I said, it's also a blessing. You're getting to do something that most people don't get to do. They don't get to create something. So I said, you really, really should enjoy it. So I try to set up the journey, the beginning of the journey, in a positive way, just so that we can remember that, because there'll be ups and downs and things will go wrong, and stuff will come in more expensive than they expected, or there's always stuff like that. But in the end, it's always worth it. And I try to keep a real good attitude about it the entire time, because I love doing it and I want them to love doing it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a really interesting point. Is, they can't find a home. That's why they're going to build a house, and that's going to be their home. I think I wrote that down the minute you said it. You're facilitating them to find home. And that's a place where it's got, we'll dig into what home means to people. But that's a place where they're yearning to be, and you're getting them there. And it's a journey. They don't know what they don't know. You don't know what you don't know about them. And you've got to learn them. They've got to learn you. You've got to learn a site. You've got to learn all these different pieces. And together you kind of step, and your experience and past give you insight into something of how it makes practical sense. And then also at some point it's got to cost a certain amount of money, whether it be expensive or not. There's a certain amount of money. And so then this juggle starts, and this juggle's a joint, in your case, it's a joint journey where they're walking with you and you're walking with them, depending on which part of the process it's at. But with it, you obviously have a process that creates a successful outcome. And the type of homes you design will be expensive. That's a given. The people who can afford those kind of homes and want those kind of homes to some degree have to give up control of the process so that you can successfully get there. Otherwise, you'll be designing it for 10 years, going in circles. So getting them there. Tell me about that with your setting them up, and then, I say setting them up, I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, getting them into your process so that they can get a successful journey when they are a strong personality that maybe thinks they know better than you. Tell me about that.
Okay. Well, the beginning of the process, in addition to having a degree in architecture, I have two minors. I have one in psychology and I have one in theater. The theater I'll tell you about later. But the psychology part, whenever anybody contacts us, one, I always take that as a great invitation. And I never, even if I don't think I will take the job, I usually will go see them in person and say no in person
Mm-hmm.
because they have gone out of their way to invite me in their life, and I take that very personally. So I will show up. I will show up and give them advice, maybe recommend them to somebody who I think is better for them, whatever. But I give them that respect to show up because this is an intimate and personal journey, and it needs to be done personally. I'll
Love
do
that.
Zoom things just to say hello and have an initial meeting, but I immediately follow it up with I want to see you in person because I learned so much about people by the way they act, the way they interact with each other, if they're a couple, the way they treat each other, the way if we go to eat, the way they treat wait staff.
Mm-hmm.
I watch everything because, as you know, when you're courting,
Yeah.
it's like speed dating.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to make a decision that is going to be the next, 3 to 5 years of your life, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
project. And for both of us, for
Uh-huh.
both of us,
Yep.
for them too. And so it's an important decision. And so I always, when anybody's sitting across from me, and you're getting into what's practically kind of a marriage because
Yeah.
it's you're dealing in matters of the heart,
Yeah.
being a house.
And, and
Um,
and in finance.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
there's matters of the head too, but
Yeah.
it's still mostly matters of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because the heart will always override the head when it comes to a house. If you're building an office building, the ledger will override everything.
Yeah.
But the house, you can be illogical in it,
Yes.
and that's what I love about it. So anyway, when I'm sitting across from somebody, the one thing I always find is because there's a limited amount of me
Yeah.
left in the day or in the world. And I always know I've got a pie sitting in front of me and I'm about to give somebody a slice of pie and I'm never getting that pie back. And I could have 4 pieces, I could have 400. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's limited. It's limited. And I always look at people and the first thing my judgment on whether I go to work with anybody, and it doesn't have to do with money, or I don't even Google people I meet with because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know what the internet says about them. I want to meet them. I never know what they do till later. None of that. I want to make my own judgment calls. But the main thing I look at is there something about you that I can fall in love with a little bit?
Yeah.
Uh, because if that's there, I'm going to do my best for you. When times are hard, I'm still going to do my best for you, just like a marriage. And if I like you, then I'm going to do my best. If I don't like you, then I'm basically being a prostitute, and
Mm.
I'm going to kiss you, but I don't mean it
Yeah.
because I got kids
Exactly.
at home to feed. So that's always what I look at initially. And if there's something about you I like, then that's good. I've shown up to turn down projects just because I didn't like what they were.
Mm-hmm.
But once I met the people, I fell in love with them
Mm-hmm.
and took the projects. So it's never about the budget or where it is or what it is or anything. It always comes down to the people. And I've had relationships. I met this morning with a fellow. I'm doing his fourth house. I've done all his kids' houses.
Wow.
My daughter has babysat his grandchildren. I mean, these are long relationships. And I've had a number of those over the years. And we've been doing this long enough that, some of them are dying now. So
Yeah. Wow.
I'm losing,
These
clients
these
and
past clients. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the people that I've been to their house for Thanksgiving and things like that.
Yeah.
And that to me is what gets me. I don't get up in the morning thinking I get to design another shoe closet. I've designed hundreds of them over the years. I get up because I know who's going to be calling me. And they're interesting people. They are, they're a lot of them are high maintenance people. A lot of them are type A people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of the psychology comes in. Lately, a lot of, I've seen clients change. Now we're dealing with a lot of tech people who are always on some sort of spectrum.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a whole new way of dealing with people, on how you talk to people like that.
Yeah,
And so
right.
that's where a
Tell,
lot of the psychology comes in because it's the clientele is changing, because the
yeah,
finances are
yeah,
changing. When we first got started, we were working for doctors,
yeah.
and now we're working for, 20-year-old people.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Isn't that interesting? So
yeah,
this fascinates me because I, I didn't study psychology, that's for sure. Um, and I'm ADHD and dyslexic. So with that, I see those as being kind of superpowers. What their superpowers is, in the way that they've formed my life is they've just said, Adrian, you can do these things, but not these things.
yeah.
This is your lane. So use your lane. And but with the dyslexia part, I think mainly, at school, all my reports and stuff were just like, why do you turn up? I turned up because it was fun and I was a troublemaker. So that was part of the journey. But with it, one of the things that I learned, or I say I learned to do, maybe taught myself as well, was to build rapport with people really quickly. And then to be able to I always look for the best in everybody, always, to a fault. So I'm always looking for what's the best part about them,
Mhm. Yeah.
because that's how I can build rapport. And then I'm listening to you there, and I'm going, I have rules that I run in my head. And you made that comment, about if they're a couple and how maybe his wife talks to him and he talks to his wife is critical, is absolutely critical to whether I want to be in that relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're
Um,
about to crawl in bed with them.
that's
And
it. Yeah.
it's an intimate journey. And you want to know, you want to know that and I don't care if they agree. I mean,
Oh,
most successful marriages, I know mine is. I don't know about yours, but my wife and I are very different.
yeah.
We're different personalities.
Yep.
I've always joked that if two people in a couple are the same, then one of you is unnecessary. So, I don't care if people agree. I don't care if couples agree. They
I
don't have to come
I
come
would
to me and
rather they
agree.
don't in a lot of
No,
cases.
it creates some of the best houses. I
Yeah.
always tell them, creating a house is like creating a child. I said, y'all created, I'm sure, some interesting kids that have the best and worst of both of you. And I said, the house is the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, in our process, what I always do starting out is, once we've agreed to work together, then I sit down with them for typically it's about 4 hours.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, we talk about how many bedrooms you need and, how
Yeah.
many washer and dryer, just the laundry list of stuff,
Uh-huh.
uh, which is to me is the most boring part of it.
Yep. That's a tick box.
You could email me that. You could just hand me that and I could tell you to drive around to the window and hand you a hamburger.
Yeah.
But I ask them a lot of nosy questions.
Uh-huh.
Like I'll ask them, where they fell in love.
Uh-huh.
What's their best day look like? Where do you go to travel? What space have you ever been that just made you feel elevated? Like that that's something, there's something greater than you in this world. And we'll just I ask a lot of questions because basically if I'm doing my job, I'm painting their portrait. and I have to get to know them. And so, I'll go into a lot of nosy questions, and it's odd how some flippant remark will become the seed that will create the house. I remember I created a house years ago in Nashville, Tennessee. They were talking about, this was a young couple, or no, they weren't a young couple, but it was young love.
Young love, fresh love.
I met them when they were courting.
Yeah.
And I talked to them about where they fell in love. And they told me about this day in having lunch in a loggia, in a converted monastery somewhere in Italy. And she showed me a postcard of it. It was this beautiful groin vaulted monastery. And she said, I remember that day because she said that's when we both basically said, I love you. And so when I designed the house, the entrance to the house was, you came into a loggia just like that. I basically copied that. I said, I want you every time you come home to relive that moment of the day you fell in love.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, it's comments like that really become the seed that start the whole house on its journey. And people create home, I create houses, but what I want to do is I want to set it up so that when they walk in, it has so much of their DNA already smeared all over it that it just feels like home. It feels natural to them. Kind of like when you put on, you have a suit made for you that's very bespoke. You put it on and it just you feel different. You feel better, and it just fits literally like a glove.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing with houses so that when they walk in, it feels right. And that's going into the theater part. That's one of the things I love about theater is that, when you sit down in a play and the curtain opens and there's a room, before anybody walks on that stage, you kind of already know these people. You can just tell.
It set the tone.
It's because the scenic designer, and you see it in movies all the time too. And actually some of my favorite designers are scenic designers. Because they read the script, they know the story, they're creating an environment that's just for that person, and they've got to tell that story before anyone says a line. And to me, that's what architecture can do too. And it's really very interesting because, again, over the years, because we've been doing this for so long, we've seen people die, we've seen, divorces, houses change hands.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll get to meet the people who have bought the house.
Oh.
And funny enough, most times they remind me of the person we did the house for. So it's like the birds sort of seek similar nests.
Yeah.
They'll somebody that's kind of very similar to the person who built that house, and they'll be, they recognize something about it that's home to them. So it's just psychologically, it's very interesting to watch that.
Oh, I think that it's magic, and points that I take from what you just said there is that you meet people so energetically, you feel them energetically, and you probably meet them in their home, and if not, maybe a restaurant or something like that. But you actually energetically feel them, and that's your first, green flag, red flag. Kind of moment, other than talking to them online or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was I remember there was a house we did years ago. A lady picked us up at the airport. We were driving to her site. In the car ride from the airport to the house, we learned everything about her in that car ride. She stopped. There was a dog loose on the road, and she picked up the dog. She knew whose dog it belonged to. We had to go to somebody's house and take the dog off. And she talked about how her children were all adopted, and she was a lover,
Yeah,
and,
wow.
and the entire house we designed around courtyards because she held on to things and she loved things and she hugged things. And so, without even talking about the house, we didn't talk about the house. we were just having a car ride, just paying attention to who she was, and her innate being totally formed the design of the house without even saying a word.
Isn't that, I love that. I just so love that. That thing of well, seeing a person, I would say, is what it is. Seeing a person.
Yeah.
I always think that what we learn in casual conversation will be more important. Maybe, it will, what we learn in that casual conversation that we have around, their holidays, their whatever it is, the jam they like to eat, whatever it is, those stories of the things that make them who they are. You never find it in direct question. You find it in time and casual conversation. And with it, you suddenly go, oh, okay, this forms part of who they are. And that thing that, like you said, she was the lover. She was the one who just hugs. She brings everything in, and she protects it. She's like, and she's probably very selfless in doing that. Like it's something or somebody is in need. So how do I help them? Is her first response to life. I love those kind of things. I love it when you discover that. I've had in my journey with design, I'm very much, as I say, it's about the people. And you said it before, you're getting into bed with them. I often joke with clients, and it's not a joke, but it is a joke. I often joke with them and say, there's going to be some pillow talk. And it's not always going to be the pillow talk we want. There's going to be things that work and things that don't work. And, even just in a couple, finding the value sets in a couple, I always go, so in every relationship, and this I've seen, female relationship, male relationship, heterosexual relationship. The thing that I have seen is that different people, or different, sorry, out of the two people, at different times, they have veto over a subject, so one will always be the final say on a financial thing. One will always be the say on this thing. Doesn't mean they're not working together on it. It just means that in one place, one will give further and the other will be the one, who says yes or no to it. And then they will, finding out that where the veto lies is, to me, really fascinating. So, and how people take care of each other when they're a couple. Do they take care of each other? And how much joy and love in taking care of each other is it this relationship where it's a chivalrous male, is it like, what is this and how does it operate?
Well, the red flags show up quickly if you're really looking for them. And I mean, when I was younger and greedier and hungrier, somebody would walk up to me and I knew they were a snake, but I can handle snakes. The longer I've been doing this, and I just want to fill my life up with lovely people that make me better. And I also not only just me, but everybody, all the people that work with me, I want to fill their life up with lovely people. So that I'm not throwing them baskets of snakes because I got a payroll to make. And so it's very important to me that I set that up so I can continue loving what I'm doing. And there's a lot of lovely people out there. There really is. And it doesn't mean they're all psychologically sound. And
it can be better if they're not.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind crazy. I don't like mean.
Yeah.
I'm fine with crazy.
Yeah, fine with crazy, but not fine with mean. I totally agree.
Yeah. And so, but I like to walk. I like to, I like to surround myself with people that I'm learning from, because a lot of the the people that we deal with are, I mean, they're very successful and they're smart and they're sharp and they've overcome adversities and have done amazing things. And I kind of want to know what they know,
Yeah.
because it makes me a better person too. So, I'm totally surrounded with, amazing life lessons just with the people that I get to spend a lot of time with, and intimate time with. And so that's, I really take that in, and just soak it up.
If you if you were saying to, like, you must say, because you've got a reasonable sized team behind you guys,
Yeah.
and I if you were saying to somebody who was starting out, maybe going into their own practice, um what would be the advice, knowing what you've just told me, what would be the advice you would give them about where they're trying to get to with their practice?
Well, one, drop the ego. That's always something, especially when I get new kids in the office.
Yeah.
That we have a history in the design world of being very ego driven, and it's because we're all so damn insecure. We're like every other artist in the world. We're egotists with horrible insecurities.
Yeah.
And that's a theme that goes on. So it's real easy to think that you know better, and you're hiring me for my vast knowledge and wisdom and everything. And kids come out of school with that. And so I always have to say, one, you need to drop it. I said, this is a service industry, it's so I said, you do have to realize that. But also it's just not going to serve you. I think, not to get political or anything, but I think people in the past 10 years or so are just tired of ego. And it's just not attractive. I think approaching things with some humility is always lovelier, and maybe that's a Southern characteristic too.
Oh, nice one.
I'm just always more attracted to humility than ego.
Yeah.
Ego doesn't interest me. That's why when you talk about ego or money or anything like that, that's the dullest conversation in the world. Ego-driven houses, the dullest house to me is a suburban house, because they're all about ego. It's a front, sitting on the street, staring at you, going, look at me, I've made it. And then meanwhile, everybody's holed up in the back of the house somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a side and a back and a front. And to me, it's like the dullest person at a cocktail party that you can't wait to get away from. You know everything about them in,
Seconds flat.
Yeah. And to me, the most interesting houses are experiential houses that become more interesting the more you go through them or the more you learn about them.
Yeah.
Just like people. To me, the most fascinating people are people you really have to get to know and learn and find things out about. And houses can be that way too. And so that's why you'll, in a lot of our work, you kind of have to discover the front door. There's not a front door, it's off to the side, or we'll set up symmetry and then we'll immediately throw it off. So we break a lot of rules in that aspect, just so that you don't quite know what's going on. There's some mystery there and always romance in it.
Yeah.
But you have to experience it, and you don't understand the entire thing till you've gone through it. Just like you don't understand people until you've spent a lot of time with them. And so that's to me, that's what I always try to present. And one thing I try to mentor and teach people is just, listen, don't talk. You'll learn so much just in the silence, just by watching.
And observation, that thing of choosing your people rather than the job. And you will choose the job as well. But you said earlier about, you see a snake and you go, oh, I can, the younger you goes, oh, I can handle a snake. But when you've got to handle the snake for 2 years or more, you've got to ask yourself whether you really want to handle the snake anymore. So, like, similarly to you, I say to people, if when they're starting out or going out on their own, just choose the best people to work with. And if you can't enjoy them, just walk away. Walk away. Do
Yeah.
not put
Well,
yourself through it.
early on, you have to do it. You have
Yeah.
to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And so I get it. And you can have 15 great people as clients on the entire day, and it just sucks every bit of energy out of you. And that's what you wake up with, and that's what you go to bed with, is that one person.
Yep.
And
Yep.
meanwhile, you've got people who are just lovely, who are not getting that
Mm-hmm.
sort of energy. And so that's why I edit that out. And so oddly enough, that's also the way I choose employees, is the same way.
Yeah, right.
Same way. I don't think anybody that's worked for me, I have never looked at a portfolio. I always have my staff, anybody that wants to. It's open to everybody, from people who've been there for a while to people who are brand new. I said, so and so's coming in for an interview. Go interview them. I don't sit in on the first interviews. I let them do it. And they ask the questions and they do everything. They come back and report to me. I said, did you like them? And they'll either give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If they give me a thumbs up, then I'll do a follow-up interview, and I'll take them to lunch. I don't look at their work. I watch their table manners. Again, I watch how they treat wait staff. And I could tell if they were raised properly.
Isn't that interesting? Hey?
And if they're going to be, because I do not, I remember one time Bobby sent me somebody to interview. He goes, I think this guy would be great in the New York office. And I called Bobby later, and Bobby said, what did you think about him? I said, Bobby, he was an asshole.
Yeah.
I said, he's talented. I said, he'd make us a lot of money, but he's an asshole. And I said, I'm not going to bring that into the office.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have, somebody who's lovely, and so, because that goes back to the way Bobby and I kind of started this office. It was always just to kind of create a fun, lovely environment that we could all do what we love doing in. And 40 years later, that's still the concept statement of this office, is basically just to kind of create that, so we can continue doing what we enjoy doing, and doing it with people that we like doing it with.
Yeah, I imagine it reflects also heavily on the client relationship, because that thing that you said before, you get one bad client. Say you've got 15 clients, and one of them is the rotten apple, and that rotten apple actually affects the journey of the other 14 because of the amount of energy it steals from you, and your team, and the lack of willingness to, your guard's up, your trust's lower, everything's just.
I belong to a number of organizations of my peers, so I have a conversation a lot with people who are my age, younger, older, but kind of tread the same professional paths that I'm treading. And the ones that I talk to who are always burned out, tired, over it, ready to retire, just can't do it another day, it's because they filled their life up with snakes that they've got to work with. And it sucks any joy out of life. And there's certain people, there are some people that I've found over the years, and all of this is through experience. There's certain people that have the personality that really should not build a house.
Oh, that's
They
interesting.
they are their own worst enemy, and they really should not do it.
Yeah, right.
Um, and I've told people that before.
Yeah, okay. So take me like when you say that, um, because a lot of people I think are trying to fulfill a dream.
Well,
Um,
it all boils down to again, it goes into the depth of understanding what's driving people. You know, kind
mhm,
of once you understand the why,
mhm.
the what's a lot easier, and the why is always very different. And again, this gets into the psychology of things, but you know, a lot of people, there'll be couples that'll be in a bad marriage that are, you know, building a house like having a baby that'll save the marriage, or it'll give her something to do,
Oh my
or
God.
you know, he's just been caught in an affair, so I'm getting a house now,
Yeah.
or you know, I'm the second wife and I got something to prove because the family doesn't like me. I mean, there's just all these reasons that people build, and they're ill-conceived reasons. And so
Ah,
once you figure that out, that the why is rotten to the core,
run
then
away. Run
I don't want
away.
to be a part. I don't want to be a part of the what, because
Yeah,
the what's going to be rotten to the core.
absolutely. How can you bring magic to it? You know, I
Yeah.
don't. As you were saying it, I was racing through my head going, oh my God, have I had anybody who's tried to save their marriage by building a house? Not
Yeah.
yet.
Oh, I've had people get divorced in the middle of houses, you know, building houses. So, you know.
Far out. Far out. Isn't it funny how um the human psychology of the people and the journey that you get to observe with them, have with them, and be a part of with them actually forms the architecture. It
Yeah,
it
well,
it
absolutely, because it's you know, and that's what the fun part about residential work is.
Mm.
That's why I don't do, you know,
High
banks
rises. Yeah. Yeah.
or you know, airports or hospitals or whatever. To me, those are again matters of the head, and they don't interest me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I basically get to be a playwright for every day. I get to be writing, you know, designing a set for these cast of characters that have been put in my life.
Yeah.
And to me, that is so fun and so interesting to delve into. And it goes beyond program and list of rooms and money and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really it really to me is a very noble calling
Yeah.
in what I get to do. And that's why I always, when anybody reaches out and contacts me, that's why I always take that invitation very important.
Yeah.
That they,
And with humility. So how does your wife cope with your amazing passion for what you do?
well,
Um,
she's an architect too. We
oh
met,
right.
yes, yeah, we met in college. And where I met my partner Bobby in college. So and she actually used to work with us before our daughter was born. She was our business manager because she's got the business head.
She's got the brains. Yeah.
She's got the money head, you know, like I said, she's got talents I don't have. I'm the dreamer, and
Yeah.
she's the one who like balances the checkbook. So
I love
so
that.
yeah, so she, you know, we've all been together since we were in our 20s. So we've all known each other and been together and love each other for a long time. So you know, she she loves that I love what I do, that there's
Yeah.
passion. Because again, you see people, you know, and actually Bobby and I had a recent conversation about kind of what our, you know, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan is. And neither of us have any plans to retire.
Ever.
We
Yeah.
you know, neither of us have hobbies.
Oh, right.
We do exactly anything that we love doing, we do right now.
Yeah.
Uh, so you know, it's you know, I don't fish, I don't golf, I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't particularly even I travel so much for work that travel to me is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just enjoy working, and Bobby just enjoys working. And, so we had kind of this long range plan talking about what we were going to do. And neither of us want to stop.
Yeah.
And because we just kind of enjoy doing this. So, at some point, I'm sure nature will make us stop. And I told my staff one day, I said, if I ever show up at a meeting with food on my shirt and my pants unzipped, then it's time for me to retire. But I said it has to be those things simultaneously. If it's one or the other, it doesn't count.
We can look past it. Yeah. But if it's both, okay, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about, all the things about, especially as you get older, working crossword puzzles and all that sort of things keeps your mind sharp.
Yeah.
I've been working crossword puzzles for like 40 something years in designing houses.
Absolutely.
So having mental stimulation is not an issue.
It's a really interesting thing, that whole thing around, that retirement thing. And one of the things that I remember going to a seminar once, and it was a business seminar, and the guy speaking said how he studied architecture. And one of the things that he realized while he was studying architecture was that it was a long cycle business. It wasn't like a short cycle business. You can't turn it over and over. Projects take time. And so therefore, with it being a long cycle business, it didn't actually suit his aspirations of what he wanted to achieve, because you can't become a famous young architect very, very easily at all, because it's going to only be ego. But you can become a famous architect over tenure, over a long time. And he made the point, all famous architects are old, because it takes time to build the portfolio. It takes time to learn people. It takes time to do all these things. And I remember sitting there in the seminar going, isn't that an interesting thing? The speed of business that can happen, and how that is best served with where you're trying to get to. And then when I started the podcast, I would speak to different people and getting an understanding of how they viewed that world, the world of design. And I have more than just architects on, but I have a lot of architects and a lot of interior designers. Those are the kind of the big pieces. And then beyond that, I might have some business coaches. I might have some people who build custom motorcycles, things like that also, that I go, oh, wow, how interesting is their approach to design, and what's their journey, what's the parallels in the journey. With that architecture piece and the fact that it takes time, but it's not like laying blocks or bricks. It's not like laying concrete. It's not like that you physically wear yourself out. What you actually do is just keep filling the cup with more knowledge and more analytics and more people behavior. You started to say earlier about the shift in clientele to, from going what it was to more tech driven, to younger people, that where once your clientele maybe, started at 40, now it starts at 20. I don't know. Can you tell us about that kind of thing, and where you see this market kind of playing? Because they haven't experienced as much life in their 20s as, say, they have in their 40s. And how do they form their decisions?
Well, it's a number of things. One, you have to, because of who's making the money now. It's a lot of people that have some form of autism, whether it's mild or major.
Right.
Those are the people that are making the money, because those are the people that are in tech or the finance people.
Yep.
It's like, this is an extreme example, but it's like we're working for a lot of Rain Mans.
Yeah.
Uh, and so because they're the people that have that kind of mind to do that. And so first of all, you have to understand that kind of mind. And again, that's where the psychology comes in. Because you have to deal with those types of minds in certain ways. You can't, there's not a blanket way to deal with all
No.
clients. And these are very specific type of people. The youth thing, which, I'm doing a house right now for a guy who's probably 27.
Yeah, right.
And you have to, what I try to do in this long initial conversation we have with people. I always tell people, I said, when you're given a blank sheet of paper, it's real easy to get greedy. It's sort of like if you're given a plate at a buffet, and by halfway through the buffet, your plate's full.
You're looking for another plate to fill the next
Yeah,
one.
it's the same way designing a house. If I've got a blank sheet of paper, I can make this, and I can make this, and this needs to be bigger, and this needs to be bigger. And then what happens is that's how you end up with fat, bloated houses that people, if you're working with an architect who's an order taker, who's basically you're telling them what you want and they're just doing what you tell them.
Yeah.
That then you sort of end up with a house that is more than you wanted to spend, and it's more house than you want. And you find out that you have built for your life right now, and right now changes. And that's only something you understand with some age and maturity, that 2-year-old is going to be gone. And then that 2-year-old is going to get married and come back and with their own 2-year-old. And that happens in your life. And so what I, in my work, in creating these things, because again, these are great efforts, not only for me, but people too. They're great efforts in terms of time and finance. And these are busy people and have complicated lives. And I want those efforts to be productive not only for right now, but for the long term. And so I talk a lot with younger people about what their lives are going to be like later, because I said, I don't want to create an albatross for you where you look around at some point and it's just the two of y'all rattling around like the last two Tic Tacs in the container. And you go, this doesn't work for us anymore. And that's when you get into people that have to downsize. And so I want your efforts, these great efforts, to grow with you. And so I help people kind of edit their wants and needs down. I'm a big believer in building smaller, not bigger, because it's I don't like big, fat, lazy houses. I like efficient houses. I like houses that people use every room in. I like houses that can grow when they need to grow, when there's that big party, and they feel comfortable when it's just the two people there or one person there. And so that's a mistake I always see young people doing, is they just think about the right now, what they need right now. And that just changes so quickly. And so that's something that I really try to help people, usher people through. And to me, that's just being, there's all this talk in architecture now about being green and all this sort of stuff. It's sustainable. To me, the most sustainable thing you can do is create a house that lives someone's lifetime. It's not a house that, only has like a 15-year time period and you gotta turn it over. To me, that's wasteful. Not only in terms of material, but just also in terms of time and energy. And
something I see with that really fascinates me is when you are designing houses for people who have got a significant amount of money, and they can afford whatever they want as such, they're more likely to knock down, if they want a site, they're more likely to knock down the house that's on that site to have their own home. And I remember some clients of mine saying, oh, the people down the road paid this is where I locally live, paid $7 million for the house, and they've knocked it down. And I kind of went, yeah. And they're like, um, doesn't that, kind of shock you? And I went, well, they want what they want,
Mhm.
not what somebody else had. And the challenge of the design is to make it into something that if I do your home and you decide to sell it, that somebody wants it for the home it is, as well as where it is, not
Mhm.
that they're going to knock this house down to create their own. They may come and alter it, they may come and put their own taste into it and quirks in it, but we want to try and build something that is significant enough that somebody, or it was significant enough in the way it feels, looks, and engages people, that they want to fit into it, as well as not just knock it down and start over. And
Well, it's also about creating a house. I mean, we try to do this. We have this phrase that we kind of coined years ago called the inheritable house, that are houses that kind of live beyond us or the
yeah.
clients we're doing for them, for. And if you go into any major city, if you look at houses in the 1920s, those are always the most beloved houses. It was just a real heyday in American architecture, and they're loved for a reason. And it's because a lot of them were made of real materials.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we always try to do. We have been, I've never been interested in trends. I have never been interested in products. If somebody always wants to tell me about the newest thing, I just glaze over. I always go. I mean, I remember back in the 80s when we were practicing and synthetic stucco came out, and it was like the greatest thing in the world. And we were going, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of," because we were doing masonry stucco. And
Yeah.
now they're lawsuits later and everything. It just ended up being awful. Uh, but if you deal in classic materials that always get better the older they get, you don't want to design a house that's the as soon as they move in, that's the best it's ever going to look. And after this,
Oh
it's all
yeah.
downhill.
Yeah.
You want something that ages beautifully and gracefully and patinas and um
I
you know
describe it
the,
as an ageism place, like when people say, "Oh, I want to live in this home and I want to, see my time out here. I want to
Mhm.
age in place. I want to age in this place." And I go, "Yeah, well, we want to create a house that ages in place with you and
Yeah,
it patinas as it goes." And I had
yeah.
this conversation the other day with someone where I said, say we go to Europe or anywhere, even old parts of America, and we walk into a home, and if we were to do that, and we step on the most perfect front step, if we were traveling and we were doing something, we would marvel at the piece of stone that was worn in the middle because a
Mhm.
thousand other people had stepped on, or 10,000, 100,000, whatever, over time. And we would look at it and we would go, it adds value to it. But
Mhm.
we get caught up in this fresh new world that doesn't age in place. And people go, oh,
Mhm.
no, no, I couldn't have that because it's dished now, it's whatever. There's something
Mhm.
about a I wrote this down. I'm going to find it because I wrote it down when I was doing some research before talking to you. It was about a home that loves you. I've got to find, well, anyway, it was about a home that loves you like you love it. The house itself is a being, and
Mhm.
it it responds to you because of the love that you have for it. Um, and I was reading on your website and
That's a
Googling
very it's a
around a bit.
that's a very European sensibility. It's very un-American. Americans love new,
Very,
brand new. You
very
know,
un-Australian, trust me.
it even goes into interior design. About
Yeah,
houses without antiques or things like that.
yeah.
And uh, and so but I think a lot of at least a lot of our clientele are people who've traveled extensively. They've gotten out of America basically,
Mm-hmm.
and understand that kind of velveteen rabbit of a house that has been just adored and caressed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and a little time worn, and how there's beauty in that. And so, even in the design, we'll create houses that look like they've been added on over time. So we'll create a story where there was
Yeah,
no
wow.
story, and
Wow.
that helps give a brand new house some charm,
Some
because it
texture.
looks yeah, like it's been tacked on. It's an orchestrated haphazardness,
Yeah.
um, where, and that's where, that's why we're romantics. We're not classicists.
Yeah, right.
Where,
I
it's,
love that.
we get to use all the crayons in the box and not just certain ones. I know enough about the rules to immediately break it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
It's it is it's like, we'll lean to that onto the side of it. Not
yeah,
that we can't keep it in the structure, but because it adds the texture of it. And
yeah.
it's
And
like,
let's put a different material on
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Isn't
Let's
I
make
love
it
that.
wood. Yeah, let's make it wood instead of stone.
Yeah.
Let's create a story. Houses to me, I love houses that contain stories. And the people that I'm designing for always come with their own stories and they get inserted into them. But I also like to kind of create some imaginary stories in the
Yeah,
houses.
absolutely. Well, that's part of that journey of discovery of um letting people have curiosity, or creating curiosity and adventure for them in the same thing, and letting them own a piece of a story that's uniquely created with them and for them as well, like that I really love. And they get to, yeah, it's not all just yeah, like contained. Um I have this other question, which is around homes that, I'm going to say healing, and that
Mhm.
kind of says everybody's broken in some way, but homes that nurture,
Oh, they are.
everybody is, yes,
Trust me.
everybody's got a broken wing. Yeah,
As a student of human nature,
yeah.
they
Um,
are.
but how homes, and certainly that thing that you were just saying about the materiality of a home and using real material, and like you were relating it back to the 1920s, it's certainly a luxury now, I think, to live in any home that is made of real material, like of its real itself as such, of the nature of, not necessarily around it, but the nature of it. Um, we've got this. You called it before the amenity du jour, when we
Mhm.
were before we were
Yeah.
before we started recording, and this amenity du jour, which is the wellness um, center, I'm going to call it, or the wellness, not just aspect. I think the wellness aspect of a home can come from its materiality in a lot of ways, and you'll probably only operate in the space where it does come, where that is built into it, because you're not trying to use the latest piece of acrylic this or whatever that and all the
Yeah.
rest. And I imagine things like LED lighting versus lighting that matches circadian rhythms and things like that is, you've got the move from incandescent to the other has an impact over things like that. But when we're looking at the the amenity du jour, the wellness
Mhm.
center within someone's home. So I've got some stories around that, but take me through some of yours with that,
Well,
because it's the thing.
yeah, it is the thing, and I've done a lot of them. Um, it's the cold plunges and the infrared saunas and all those sort of things, and that are just kind of the hottest thing to have,
Mm.
which is fine.
Used to be a
Uh,
theater. It used to be a theater in the
yeah,
in the house.
yeah,
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 a
yeah,
media
and like
room.
like I told you, I can't wait for golf simulators to die.
Exactly.
I hate those things. But anyway, it's people that have definite concerns about wellness, which again, if I start looking back at the why of things, I start understanding it more. And I am a big believer that architecture can be healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look deeper than that. Yeah, I mean, they're just like I said, they're amenity to jurors. They're products that you can buy, and I'm sure next week they'll decide cold plunging is bad for you, and they'll have to all come out. But just looking deeper in it, I think it's a desire for people to feel secure in their homes, and again, in the madness of what's kind of going on all around us every day, all around every part of the world. I think people look for their homes to be a place where they feel safe and held and taken care of, and so I think that's part of it. But I just finished a house, and this was an amazing story to me, and this was a house that I was approached by a lady whose husband had recently passed away. He was a very well-known fashion designer and owned a series of shops and things like that. And he died at a very young age from a rare form of cancer, and left her and two young children.
Wow.
I think they were like 6 and 8, and she approached me about designing a house just a few months after he had passed away. And I sat down with her, and because they had started this journey together, and then he got ill and passed away, and she was continuing this journey. And I asked her, I said, why are you doing this? I said, I can only imagine, because you've inherited not only the care of these children and picking up this life, and they were like high school sweethearts. And so she'd lost the love of her life. And like, why are you building a house? Because I said, I can only imagine if I were you, I'd be, in bed with the covers over my head.
Yeah.
And she said, Greg, she said, we started doing this, and it was important for us to build this home. And she said, it's important for me to see this through. And she said, he was always my design arm. He was the designer. He was the compass on all of that. And she said, I've lost that. And she said, I need one now. And so she said, I'm looking for you to do that with me. And I told her, I said, well, first of all, I want to tell you that I recognize what you're doing, because what you're doing is such an amazing act of healing and of courage, that you're walking forward in hope when you're probably in a hopeless time right now, because the grief was still very raw. And I said, I respect that. And I said, I will work like hell to create something lovely for you, because I said, this will be such an act of healing for you in doing this. And we were in tears. This was like our first, this was the interview.
This was your first date.
Yeah, we were crying.
The speed dating people are going, move along, but you're going, no.
This was the car ride to the job site.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And she recently moved in, and I asked her as we were walking through the house, I said, I'm going to ask you something. I said, would he have liked this house? And she teared up a little bit, and she said, he really would have. She said, I think he would have done a few things differently. She said, but more importantly, it feels so much like a part of me. And she said, and you're right. It was a healing process in doing this. And to me, that goes deeper than infrared saunas. That architecture, and I've actually done a few projects like that, where it's been someone who has had a great loss, where they've lost a child or a spouse, and they're going into this arduous journey to do this. And to me, that really kind of shows how I can help create something that can help them heal and can make them, well.
Yeah.
And
It,
that goes beyond any sort of like, spas.
yeah, absolutely. Look, gave me goosebumps when you were saying
Well,
it. And
I think houses can do that. I think, I think when people come home from a hectic world and a hectic life,
mhm.
they want something that is calming to them. I'm doing a house right now in Palm Beach, and there was a guy. He's a big finance guy, and he's all over the place. Type A,
Yeah.
um, brilliant at what he does, and he was describing to me why he doesn't like circles at one meeting. He goes, I don't like circles. I don't like things with rounded edges. It was just like this illogical
Yep.
rant he was going on. And I looked at him and I said, after listening to all this, he goes, I like straight lines, I like corners. And I said, I said, I understand. I said, you've got so much going on in your head that you basically need a house that medicates you, that you need the calm. I said, you
Yeah.
need basically a Xanax of a house. He
Yeah.
goes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
He's I deal, and I went to his office and he had like multiple screens and it just
Just so
it looked
hectic. So
it
hectic.
looked off inside his head, I'm sure. And so when he comes home, he needs everything to be plainer and calm and
To create
it's
the
even
sanctuary. I've got
yeah,
a
yeah.
client that I'm just doing some more work for them. They've been a client for over 10 years, and he is a type A, um, introvert, and he's a mathematician in his true being. Like, I
Mhm.
look at the books that sit in his office. I designed their offices as well, but I look at the books that sit in his office and I can't read the words on the cover. But I am dyslexic, but seriously, I look at them and I go, I wonder what that even means. So sometimes I will write it down and then Google it later because it will be this most advanced mathematics.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that showed up really early with him was the first home I worked with them on was a renovation of a large house, and he had one thing which was if it was a polished surface, so a shiny surface. So say we took a piece of stone, it wouldn't be honed, it would be polished,
Yeah.
and that signified higher value to him.
Mhm.
So to him, it meant that it was more not more manufactured, more care, more whatever had gone into it. And then the other was that it needed to be asymmetrical.
Mhm.
And so this really, I was like, oh, right, okay, this is really interesting, this asymmetrical thing. And when I designed their headquarters for their company, which I don't do that. I don't do. I only do that for clients who I've worked on their homes. That's
Yeah.
the only time I step
Yeah.
into that space.
It's a favorite project because you're going to lose money.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You're going to spend way more here than you should. Um, and doing it with him, I had this thing where if things had to be asymmetrical, then how did we set up a house that was already done with some symmetry? How did we set it up?
Mhm.
And what was the purpose of it? And unless his mind is visually seeing things that it can play with, you know how you said about being on the spectrum?
Yeah.
It means that a part of it isn't taken up. And then that means that that part that he would be usually have taken up by looking at things and his background mind is analyzing those, not his foreground mind, it's his background mind. Then he can actually move more comfortably and enjoy things more comfortably. So the plays of light at different times became really important. If something set off the wall this far versus this far,
Yeah.
how many different variations to that, but keeping it simple. And then I had these reflective surfaces as opposed to light absorbing surfaces. So I was like constantly working through the design as I want daylight, but I don't want sunlight. I don't want direct sunlight
Yeah.
in many places because all of a sudden we've got it beaming everywhere. We still did some, but just fascinating how though that thing of understanding the person. Now his wife isn't like that, so finding the
No.
balance for that as well. Yeah, I find that so fascinating, and finding that space. In his case, I imagine there's some healing in that. Yeah, you're creating an environment that is for them, or for, in this case, him, those particular things of his personality that support his mental wellness and
Hmm.
allow him to take a platform and step higher from it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
therefore it makes his wife's life easier too.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You know,
So
it's,
everyone benefits.
yeah, everybody wins. It's so interesting. He sponsors, he sponsors some different events and teams and people, individuals, because he can, and the sports, people, and he himself is fit, healthy. He's a golfer, but we do not have a simulator. Um,
Good. He
he,
goes outside.
yeah, he, with that, with that whole kind of piece of it, his wellness journey is about having, he understands his own mind well enough that then it's, I'm looking for these things, and then how can you bring it to me so that it's interesting for me, not
Mhm.
so that I've prescribed it. How can you bring what's interesting? So I love that, that story of how that piece comes together, of understanding the their greater life, and then why they need this maybe at this time, and how that will serve them in the future. It's
Mhm.
it's really beautiful. I
So
want to, I'll go.
that's my thoughts on wellness.
Yeah, well, look, I must say I work a fair bit in the space of um saunas. I don't do infrared, I only do hot rock. But saunas and maybe some aromatherapy, certainly some lighting, and certainly things like, spaces where people maybe do yoga and maybe do Pilates. And then also they maybe have their own gym set up, and they might have boxing or spin or whatever it is in that space. And one of the things that I've seen happen with that, because it is the thing of this moment,
Mhm.
is people feeling safe again in their own home, and that their home is going to meet these other needs. And the other thing that I've seen, especially with people with children who are, say, early teens,
Mhm.
um, they're building a tradition and community of wellness and of exercise, and in their own home. And so it's almost like I've got some clients who go, okay, well, we've got a sauna and a cold plunge. Um, we've got a gym, and in that gym, we've got some boxing and we've got some stretching, whatever it is. And they will go and work out as groups, not necessarily always all at the same time, but as groups. And
Yeah. And there's some, yeah, I have noticed, I mean, that's one of the interesting thing. And given that I work all over the United States,
yeah.
uh, years, I've also worked for a lot of different cultures.
Mm,
Uh, and a lot of times it's a learning exercise in what makes that culture different from, another culture.
yeah.
And that can kind of show up in the architecture, and in some that a lot of, a lot of the exercising and everything is very, it's very group oriented.
Yeah,
And
it's something that me personally, I'm like, oh, I'll just go to the gym.
Mhm.
Um, to have one in my own home, I'm not so motivated as it would be to go somewhere else and do it. But that's
Yeah.
because I'm looking for community and adventure and connection.
Well,
Uh,
that's it, and that's, even, uh one of the things that I love doing and talking with people and learning about people is also, it's interesting how all of everything that you sort of do in life kind of comes in handy at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's always why it's good to have other interests outside of architecture, because it makes you a more rounded person.
Yep.
The first year I was in college, I worked at the school newspaper. And so all my best friends were journalists.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I watched people interview people. And I love good journalists because they will dig. And I learned how to interview people and talk to people and learn about people, and not being afraid to ask stupid, nosy questions.
Mm-hmm.
People love to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
and so I really learned how to kind of grill to get the information I need. Especially when you're dealing with other cultures that are unfamiliar to me. I have to ask all dumb questions.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. I host a TV show or co-host a TV show here in Australia, and I will end up in homes where it's on, houses, and I'll end up in homes where I'm going, so what drives this? And it will be a cultural or a spiritual thing that has driven the design. And I'm like, the piece of the show that we're going to show is this would never end up in it. But I'm like, I need to understand. I need to know why you have a prayer room here and why that had to be, and why do you prepare food there? And I want to know it. I want to know it. I want to understand it. And then you tend to take these little gems from it. And when you see it outside, when you're doing something outside of that culture, you can see how maybe that culture's sensibility tells a story that would work for this other family or this other couple. And, you might not directly float the idea in, but you may bring it into the design, and you create that thing of creating their story with whatever it's going to be. I think that I find that piece of the journey so good.
It's why, and I've talked to a lot of kids going into architecture school and things like that. And I always say architecture is one of the greatest educations because you learn a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
You learn about math and physics and art history and culture, and it's like a liberal arts education, because you're not a know-it-all, you're sort of a know-it-some.
Yeah, of a lot. Of a lot.
Of a whole lot.
Yeah.
We're not specialists in anything, but we know we've experienced a lot. And it allows you to, if you continue that sort of train of thought, it allows you to keep an open mind as you walk through the world and take everything in, and therefore everything about our daily life is inspiration. No matter where we go, what we do, or
I've tried saying this to my tax accountant. I should be. There is nothing that I shouldn't be able to tax deduct.
Yeah, that's true. We use everything. We catalog it away.
We do. Just even
I'm gonna start writing off my movies, because I go to a lot of movies.
Oh,
I go to a lot of theater and a lot of opera. I'm gonna start writing all that off.
Well, you think of that, and just the set design and how you look at it, or the seating design, the way people move through space, and you go, oh, hold on, this is informing me about something. And it's crazy. Like I look at the fact of, when people are shopping, do they shop at a market? Do they have their food delivered? Do they shop, when I say a market, a supermarket? Do they go to a farmer's market? Do they grow their own? How does that come into the house? What does it require? So say they grow their own, they've got their own organic gardens and stuff, and they may have a gardener. And they grow their own, but how does it enter the house? Is it covered in dirt? Does it come in a box? Does it come in a bucket? Is somebody wearing boots? What's happening as it arrives? And then what will be How will it be used? How will it be stored? How will that all come together? And then what's the journey? And is the person, is their theatre to cook? Is is their heart to give by feeding? Some people are just, you, we've all had them as clients. You walk into their house and they're trying to feed you something straight away. Oh, well, I'm just putting something together. Are you sure you won't have any? I'll just make you one anyway. You don't have to eat it. But that's their heart story going, I take care of people through food. And
that's lovely. That's lovely. It shows
and then
you who they are.
yeah, and then the importance of how they do that and how you enable that becomes so important in the journey. I've got a client and she's like, come and walk in the garden. And I'm like, okay, sure, let's go. And we're hugging trees and we're tasting berries and we're seriously, man. And I go, oh, I haven't started designing the house yet, but I go, oh, I cannot wait for the mind expansion of this journey. We're lying on rocks, we're walking through mandalas, and we're going to move from there to a new space. But like this creation that she's already made with her husband, but like she's the driving force of this, is just fascinating. And as I say, we're hugging trees, man. We're walking through tall grass. We're, banging our feet so the snakes run away. We're climbing down banks and into streams and stuff like that. And you go, this is living. This is living. This is like, if I'm lucky enough to get to do this one thing, if I'm lucky enough to be paid to do this thing, that's a whole nother thing. I pinch myself at the fact that somebody's going to let me in on that journey, that I'm going to be the one who gets to walk those. I'm the one climbing through the creek. I'm the one doing those things. I think it's fascinating. I want to ask you about siting a house. So do people get you to find land with them, or do they just about always come with land?
It varies. Sometimes people show up with property. I would say most times people show up with property, and occasionally they show up with property that's wrong.
Good. Let's go there.
It's a mistake.
Yeah.
And then you have to get into the position about, do I tell them it's a mistake or do I,
do I work with it?
That's again when you have to kind of find out what's important to them about this property. Sometimes it's in a neighborhood they love and it's dear to them, and so you don't want to be the wet blanket on the party, because there's a reason that they bought it. A lot of times it's just they didn't know, and so we'll tell them. And then that sends them on another journey. But most time people come with property. The ones that don't, like I talked with a fellow yesterday who has not found property, and I said, use me as a tool. I said, every piece of property that crosses your desk, send it to me. I said, I'll tell you if it's buildable, any kind of pluses, minuses, anything like that. I said, it's easy. I can look at it.
That's what you do. Yep.
Yeah. He hasn't hired me or anything, but I said, use me as a tool. I'll be glad to give you an opinion. I'm full of opinions, and I'll help you. I'll help you find the right property so that when you buy it, this is going to be easy. In terms of siting a house, I mean, because we deal in so many different environments.
That's why that's why I asked the question, because you're one end of the states to another and other countries as well.
No, I mean, I just finished a house out in Utah that's on 100 acres.
Wow.
Because they don't want to see anybody.
Yeah, right.
So they vary from being country houses to city houses. There's a house in Palm Beach that's on a tiny little lot, which, there was no siding of the house. It was set.
Yeah.
And we work in a lot of those sort of areas, especially in Florida or coastal areas where, the land's real tight.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got an envelope you've got to work in, and sometimes those can kind of create the most fun houses because you still want to create something experiential and something dramatic and something unexpected, but it's in an envelope.
Yeah.
Where you normally just do a box.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fun that can come in that, and it's a good challenge for us because we're basically given a coloring book and we got to color in the lines, but we got to create something beautiful and unexpected and creative in that. But on a country property where there's no front, sides, back, road. I mean, there's a road usually to get to it. I always tell people when they say, how do we site the house? I said, well, first of all, you need to get any bit of suburban mentality out of you. There's no front here. There's no sides here. There's no back here. I said, you can be whatever you want to be. And so I always say it's sort of like if you watch a dog lie down, how a dog will like circle around until it finds
the spot,
auspicious, mystical place for it to sit down.
Yeah.
That's what we do with a house. It's just sort of, you go out there, you take in sun, views, any sort of things you want to ignore.
Yeah.
All of that. You basically walk around in a circle till you find the comfortable spot. And we, in our designs, we're a little different from other architects, and we design from the inside out rather than the outside in. So we almost start with furniture plans. I often for decorator architects. And so we always start with, okay, where do I want to sit on this site?
Yeah.
Where do I want the sofa to be? And so I never come at a project with a preconceived notion of what it's going to look like or what the outside's going to be. I never do a of like,
gets informed.
Yeah. And then I got to fit your life in all of that.
Yeah.
It's always very plan driven early on, and we work on plans. I mean, I've got an idea of how to put a roof on it in my mind because I got to keep the rain out.
Yeah.
But like when anybody starts talking about style or the looks of things, I'm just never interested because that will come.
That's part of the discovery, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is. And so it's always done, but it's always done in plan. It's always very concentrated on plan and getting the furniture arrangements to work right.
The circulation.
You can design a beautiful room that can have so much circulation in it, you can't put a sofa in it.
Yeah.
And decorators come in and go, we got to close this door up, and we got to do, they have to fix so much architecture just so you can put a sofa in it. And so our concentration a lot is how to create a beautiful furniture plan that reacts to the room.
It's so interesting that, like, I know that there are tons of architects and designers out there that you don't even know whether the furniture will fit. They don't know. And when they go to decorate, or when it goes to get decorated, they find out that nothing fits. There's either not enough space or too much space. And I remember talking to Tom Kundig, and he said, I'm a floor drawer. And I'm like, what the hell's a floor drawer? And you're a floor drawer. I'm a floor drawer. I start with a plan.
Yeah.
And then that plan of layout of, what sizes do those pieces need to be for you to live this way? And then it starts. That's where it all starts. And I'm so with you. Like, it's, where are you going to sit? Where are you going to spend? What are the moments you're going to spend where? And then when we can work out that.
Most of the time most people spend all their time in the house. They're not outside looking at it.
No.
And so much in architecture is what it looks like, like on the outside. And that's, to me, that's ill-conceived because it's, I always say, houses to me have distinct characters. They're almost like people. That if you're good inside, you will be attractive on the outside. And I don't mean just physically beautiful, but they'll be attractive about you. And houses are the same way. If they're right and the math is correct and they're good on the inside, then they'll be pretty on the outside. I'm full faith in that.
Yeah.
Because the way I design every house, and they always turn out pretty because the interior is correct.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm like, it's that thing I say to clients. You know, when you meet somebody, it's like, say, you know, a house. You're
Mhm.
looking at the facade and you're looking at how it presents itself. And that's going to be your first impression of them. But what you're really looking for is the soul, and that's going to be what the foundation is like.
Mhm.
And you can make the prettiest house you want. If the foundation's rubbish, the foundation's rubbish.
Yeah.
And when we're interviewing people, you know, that is there going to be enough magic to work together? Is there enough commonality? Are we, you know, going to stay in love through this journey? Are we going to have the great pillow talk? Are we going to, you know, have all that piece that needs to come together to create the magic that they have to live in? I don't have to. I can walk away. They live in this magic that we create. It's all about that same thing of, you know, we've got to get beyond the facade. We've got to get to how it works and how they
Yeah.
work within it. Yeah.
Well, and then, subsequently because we understand interiors so much and understand the importance of it, and I
Yeah.
have great respect for interior designers. So I'm
Hmm.
never, and this all goes back to the ego thing. I'm never one of those architects that look down on interior designers or decorators like second-rate citizens,
Mm-mm.
uh, because they create such magic on their own, and they're part of the team.
Yep.
And so therefore, because we understand and respect interiors so much as an intrinsic part of the process and the product, um, we work with a lot of different interior designers. They recommend us a lot for projects because they enjoy working with us
Hmm.
for that fact. And I've done a lot of interior designers' personal homes.
Yeah.
Uh, I've
Wow.
actually I'm working on my second one. I've actually done architects' homes, which is interesting.
Oh, I love that. I could get that. I
Architect.
understand that. Yeah. Do you know,
So
the thing
designers
is
enjoy other designers enjoy working with us. So I take that as fun, and I learn stuff from them.
yeah,
I've been doing this for a long time, and so I like having new people in the sandbox to play with.
yeah.
I like new ideas.
But I totally get that. If I was wanting to create a home like you design, I'd be an absolute fool to start out going, well, I'll design this. Well, for what purpose would I want my ego to go, I will try and take on a journey with so much depth and so much understanding um, of the detailing that creates what you do. And, you know,
Mhm.
McAlpine as a company has I'm going to say a signature, but it's a very broad signature, but it's one of quality and it's one of tradition and it's one of playfulness and modern infused with history. It's this,
Yeah.
but it's always elegant and it's always beautiful. It's that goes without saying. Those are just passports. That's just done. Don't worry about that. That'll always have that. Yeah, I go, man, if I wanted that house, why I would want to put my finger in the pie and stir it, but I don't want to bake the pie. That would be the thing. It's like
Well,
imagine imagine what we could do, you know, by
what are
having an
your
expert
one of your questions you asked early on that I never answered was about how do you deal with clients who are
who put
used to
their
telling
finger in the
people,
pie.
yeah, who are used to telling you what to do, and I always tell them this story, and it always strikes a chord with them. I remember I was doing a house years ago for a guy who he owned a major advertising firm, and he had an idea, and he proceeded to tell me how to do that idea. And people do this all the time.
Of
And I
course.
understand it. They're smart people, they're problem solvers, and they think that they've thought of something and now they've got to figure out a way to solve it.
Yep.
So they're telling you how to solve it, basically. And he was doing that in the mid sentence, he stopped. He said, "No," he goes, "I'm not going to buy a dog and bark."
I love it too.
He said, I will tell you the idea, and then he goes, it's up to you to figure out the solution to
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So I always tell people, boy, do not buy a dog and bark.
Yep. I so agree with that. And one of my best buddies goes, why have a dog and bark too? If
Yeah.
he'll say that about when he employs somebody, he'll be like, why have a dog and bark too? Like it's being done. And it is so true though, isn't it? It's like they recognize themselves because they are a problem solver, because that's what they do. They
Yeah.
recognize themselves, and then they go, hold on, get out of my own way, because that's why you're in the room. And
Yeah.
what can you
And
bring?
a lot of times, even, people say, what do you do if somebody has a bad idea? They tell you something and it's just like the stupidest thing in the world.
And go on, what do you do?
What do you do? And it's funny, I'm working with an interior designer who I love, and her muffler fell off years ago. And we were in a meeting, and the client said, what if we do this? And she looked at it and she goes, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of. Wow. But what I do, I don't do that. But I appreciated it if she did it.
I have a little conversation with them. I often go, you know what? We could do that. If we did that, here's the other things it would have a major effect over. And let's just explore a couple of those things and then see if that's where we want to shift to or not. That's my way of saying, like, that's the stupidest fucking idea.
My answer to that question is always, and it goes back to the why.
Yeah.
That there's a reason they asked you that. There's a reason they have that idea. And what they're trying to do is they've got a reason and they're trying to solve it. And that's what they're presenting you with. And if you start understanding why they asked you that, or why they presented this to you, it's just their inept attempt at trying to solve something. It's very important to them. And so I never discount it.
No, me neither.
It's important. It's important what they're talking about.
I always figured, I figured there's going to be a learning from digging into the journey of why they asked the question.
Absolutely.
So the question might be this, but what drove the thinking? And then is there something that we discover from that? And if we do, does it benefit the project? And if not, we can explore, discount it, or explore and embrace it and go, look, this is where we could go with that.
But again, it's getting the ego out of the way and realize you're trying to help people realize their dream, not
absolutely
patrons for your own,
your own dreams.
Playground here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's so true. That all our clients become patrons for our own playground.
Yeah.
And but we're in the playground with them.
I don't want to make them suffer for it.
No, don't want to. Yeah.
I had clients years ago, and it was funny. They had worked with another architect before they hired us, and they were talking about how it was a husband and wife, and they both hated the last architect so much that whenever they were having a meeting with the architect, whenever he was coming to have a meeting with them, they would argue amongst themselves whose turn it was to talk to them because they both hated talking to him.
Can you imagine?
And they were paying for that.
I was about to say, not only are they paying for it, but they could end up living in that structure for the rest of their lives. And the biggest joke that they would have is you made that decision because that was your day to talk.
They just dreaded talking to him so much that they just argued amongst themselves about whose turn it was, like it was punishment.
That is so classic. And look, these are good lessons for people that listen to this podcast that maybe are going to have a house designed. That's one thing. Who are you and what do you bring to it? And then the other thing is this thing of you're going to live in whatever the outcome is. So make the journey from you've got a dream, make the journey a joyful journey. It will have its hills, bumps, judder bars. It will have all those things anyway, but make sure that you can enjoy those pieces, the outcomes of those pieces, because it will get hard at sometimes. And then as architects or designers, the same thing, like choose the people that you want to go through those judder bars with and be able to sit and laugh with them and go, fuck, we never thought we'd end up here, but here we are, that kind of thing. And it's a joint journey. I
Well,
think it's so
I always
important.
tell whenever people ask me about what questions they should be asking or who do they need to talk to in terms of architects, I always say find somebody that you want to spend time with,
Yeah.
that you enjoy spending time with, because I said you're going to be spending a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
So I said
And
find
money.
somebody, yeah. So I said find somebody you enjoy being with,
Yeah.
that you don't mind spending time with. I said, choose your contractor the same way, choose your interior designers the same way. I said, also go see where they live. I said, you wouldn't hire a dentist with bad teeth.
Yeah.
I said, see how they live, see that they're living gracefully and that they're practicing what they're preaching.
Yeah.
But I guess because now that I have an office in New York and I'm hiring people who work for other firms, the stories that I hear from a lot of times I get staff that are almost like rescue puppies because they've worked for somebody, and these are names you would know, well-known people in our industry that are the most ill-behaved, awful, abusive people, which I can't understand that, because what we're preaching and what we're walking in daily is how to live gracefully and how to live a lovely life, and just the fact that you're that way is just the antithesis of what we do,
Isn't it?
and so it just floors me, that you can't kind of practice what you preach. And so I always tell people, I said, go to their home, see how they live.
See how they live, see how they behave,
Yeah,
see how their relationships are. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's a
Exactly.
really, really, really valid point, get an understanding of them as a human. Because you're going to be in bed with them, not
Yeah.
literally, but you're going to be in bed with them. Um, Tell me about hand drawing, because I know that you draw by hand, and
Yes.
the psyche of that for clients as well as the psyche of that for you, and how important it is. Just, give me a
Well,
shot.
going back to my origin story, it's what I've always done. It's all I know how to do. I'm a trick pony in that respect. And I mean, I use computers. I'm computer literate, not in terms of drafting or anything like that. I don't know anything about
You're
it,
not the
but
Revit whiz in the office or the
no,
ArchiCAD
no,
whiz in the
no.
office.
At one point, I kind of jokingly said I probably need to learn CAD, and somebody in the office said, "Why? Why would you do that? Don't waste your time."
Yeah.
And so and I draw with like a pencil with an eraser. I don't even use a mechanical pencil. I mean, like I'm old school.
This is
You know,
mine. It is a
oh, yours is
mechanical
more
pencil.
technical.
Yeah, I know,
No,
but it's a pencil with an
I have
eraser.
I have official McAlpine pencils. We have these made.
Oh, what a show off.
um, but there's something there's something that happens between your brain and the end of a pencil that's just magical and human, and you literally you can drive by a building and see something that was drawn by hand versus something that was made by computer. There's just, I don't know, there's just something about it.
Only if you draw by hand.
It's sort of
I
like the
don't
whole
think you
AI.
can see that. You can't see that if you've only
No,
ever
no, but
worked on a computer.
it's the whole AI thing is just, it's all over my Instagram feed, and you just see something and it immediately just looks, I mean, it's pretty or whatever, but it just looks wrong.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think humans recognize humans. And therefore, it's important to me, to have to give a home soul. Like I said, houses to me are like people, and so you have to embody them with a humanity. And so to me, that can only be done by actually physically drawing them. The other thing that's important to me, because people in my office will tell you that once I hand them a design, which will be the plans, all the elevations, everything, they will inevitably joke that every roof condition, everything is figured out. There's no like hidden condition that or some weird area that I just sort of like ignored, because when you're drawing something, I literally have to build it in my head before I can draw it. I can't let the computer just sort of like
figure that out.
We'll just figure that out later.
Yeah.
It's always complete. And so everybody in my office will just joke as they're putting stuff into CAD. They'll go, everything's like resolved. They go, how do you do that? I go, well, that comes from drawing.
Yeah. But you're building it. You're physically building it. Yeah.
I can't draw a line until I understand what that line is. On computer, I can do crap all day long, and it just doesn't mean anything. But I have to. I literally, and that's how spatial awareness and things come into play.
Yeah.
About understanding what you're doing, but so it's always been very important to me. I've been a dinosaur for a long time, and it's gone through periods. Now it's cool again. Now that they're sort of like, now that people are listening to vinyl.
Exactly. They're back, baby.
I threw away vinyl a long time ago. I'm good with streaming. But clients that come and see that I have produced something, and I have produced it. It's not like I'm the salesman that I show up and do a song and tap dance and then hand you off to somebody. I actually produced this, and actually made this, and people really, I think people are really enamored by it, and they recognize the artistry of it. We get into doing the computer models, and it's mainly, of course, it's mainly so on the golf course they can go, hey, look at my house, on the phone, and they play a video, but that's all after the fact. It's just a toy at that point. All of the magic has happened in a real old-fashioned way, and it's I actually had a friend of mine he's a principal at a huge firm out in San Francisco, and he came to visit me in New York one day, and he walked up to my drafting board, and I had a house laid out that I was working on. He goes, I can't believe you're a partner in a major firm and you're sitting here drawing.
Hell yes.
He goes, nobody does this.
I think that it's beautiful. And the other thing that I think that it does is and I remember Rick Joyce saying this, people who only work on computer don't understand scale. They lose scale because they're always zoomed in or zoomed out or whatever. They don't actually get how 1 foot relates in real life to what's on the page. And the other thing
computers make you lazy. They make you lazy.
Yeah, they stop that depth of thinking of that next piece of it. The other thing
it's so easy to cut and paste and drag thing that you did before. It's trying to make things efficient, and good creativity is not always efficient.
Well, I think when you're doing that, there is very little room for discovery, and discovery is part of the joy of the journey. I find that with clients, because I take them hand-drawn floor plans first, before there's any elevations, I'm discussing floor plans. They very much stay in possibility and conceptual whilst we're in non-drafted plans, like non-computerized plans. The plans are to scale, that you could build from them, but they see possibility because it's in pencil, and they can see that there's opportunity. And, when we talk about how things are and you pull a piece of trace off and draw over it and go, oh, so we could do this or we could do this. That would mean this would happen. I find that they can get into the process, and often either I'll hand them a pencil and a piece of trace and go, do you want to draw what you're saying? Or the other way, I'll go, because they won't necessarily be able to draw. I'll say, tell me, go left, right. Tell me, I will draw. I'll keep drawing, and you tell me, and we'll work through this idea. And I'll be your pencil. I will do that, and then I might draw something that I don't agree with, because I'm letting them get their piece out. And then I'll go, okay, so I can see this is the why. Come back to that why. Here's another way we may be able to execute that why. And I will redraw that just roughly. That's how we can re-execute that why. And this is why I would do it this way versus the other way. Does that make sense? Or is there something else I haven't seen? That kind of thing. I love that dynamic side of it.
Being, I mean, it's a talent to be that facile and that quick. And drawing certainly helps that. Because when you're going over a set of plans and they start throwing out all sorts of ideas and you're able to immediately solve that problem or show them what that looks like, then it moves things along and it's efficient, as opposed to, I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in with other designers where you'll throw a bunch of stuff out and they'll go, we'll take it back to the office and explore that. It's grind to all.
I think that's how you get your fees. You charge hourly.
That's definitely an hourly charger. It's just, it's, as you know, there are millions of decisions that occur in designing a house. And keeping the freshness and the impromptu-ness and the energy going forward in all of that, while people are excited and not worn out. That's an important thing for us as designers to encourage and do, and help people keep that enthusiasm going, because
it's a long haul. Yeah, it's a long
walk. It is. And we gotta, it's a long marathon, and we gotta be clapping alongside the path for a long time.
Yeah, we gotta be feeding it with water and gel or whatever it is. Yeah.
So, and that takes a lot of energy as a designer too. And you talked about wellness. It's something that I'm also very I'm very attuned in it for my own sake too, so that I'm taking care of myself enough so I can do that, because it does take a lot of energy. And I have seen a lot of people who are younger. I mean, I had a conversation with a fellow last night who's 10 years younger than me, who's just burned out. And you really, as designers, because we're giving so much, and you really have to be very attuned to your own wellness about how to take care of yourself. I can see your ADHD and throw in some OCD on my end. I don't have any dyslexia. But I was actually talking with a client of mine who has a child who has, like a lot of children are nowadays, has severe attention deficit disorders and things like that. And of course they're wanting, people are wanting to medicate him. And I said, if I was 5 years old today, I would be heavily medicated.
I'd probably be locked up.
I grew up, I was always in trouble. I could never sit at my desk. I was constantly in trouble. I was constantly the problem student. And luckily I grew up in a rural area at a time when there was not medication. Otherwise I would have been on it. But I said, what you have to do, and you joked about it being a superpower, and you're right, because I said, as someone who doesn't really suffer, but I have these kind of mental quirks, is I had to find something that I could focus all that into that counteracts it. And for me, it was drawing. When I draw, it's like going to church. All the noises in my head calm down. I could focus. I can, everything around me quiets down and the world backs up.
Mhm.
And I said, and I was talking to my client, I said, your child needs to find that for him. It may not be drawing, it may be something else. But I said, it's something you have to mature into. But I said, it does become a superpower after a while. And so that's one thing. And I won't get on a pharmaceutical, soapbox, but that's one thing. I think a lot of pharmaceuticals are really kind of sucking a lot of creativity that's out there away from kids. That I think is available to them, just to get to behave, because I was a terror.
Yeah, well, I think, you and I probably were similar in that respect. My dad's a fine artist. And so drawing and stuff was always something that we did. I would say I'm not an artist. I'm a designer. And I say that because I don't create it for the sake of creating it. I create it because I want an outcome, a purpose for it. And that would be my distinction to it, where some people just create art because it's what their joy is. I very much go, there's a problem to be solved, and how can I solve it? And that I will do by drawing it. And then, yes, I was a terror. But the interesting thing that, you grew up on a farm. I grew up in a farming district, but not on a farm. I had a creek in my backyard. It had a cliff that ran into it. I had rope swings. I made dams. I built, box carts. I built all these things. I grew up that way. There was no internet, obviously. There was no mobile phones. There was none of these things. That nature or being in nature was just not a choice. Like you couldn't. My parents kicked me out of the house if I didn't. There was no way you were going to sit inside all day. And when I grew up,
there was no golf simulator.
There was nothing. There was, the golf simulator was a stick and rocks. Yeah. And we didn't even have a TV. New Zealand, I don't know what year we got television in New Zealand, but it was well after America. So I remember our first TV was black and white.
You've trumped me on crappy childhoods.
Yeah. Well, I seriously look at my own kids and I go, I want them to get more of those experiences. And so we'll take them camping, or we'll take them, my youngest daughter's a surfer. I'm a surfer, she's a surfer. So I have my hobbies, which is really surfing and snow skiing mainly, and hiking. None of them am I obsessed by, but I need something that calms the monkey, So like getting in the water and surfing is really good for that. Going snow skiing, I love being in the mountains. I couldn't live in a cold climate and not have snow. I'd be like, it's wasted. I couldn't live in a hot climate and not be near water. It's that.
I was never an outdoors kid. I mean, my mother remembers the only way she could teach me how to ride a bike, it was to lock me out of the house, and I couldn't watch TV until I learned how to ride the bike. So I've always been, the indoor kid who just drew. So I like, yes, I know there's a product at the end of this, and there's a finale to it. I do like the process of it. I like going through everything from the phone call to the people move in. I remember I went to a house recently, and they said, "Are you ever surprised when you show up and see something finished?" And I said, if I'm surprised, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm full of anxiety.
Usually it's like, it's exactly like I knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
There's no, I've gone through it. It's inevitable at this point because of the process.
I was going to say, if I'm surprised, there's a phone call that's going to happen in the car. Trust me. Maybe it's to the contractor, maybe it's to the team, but there's going to be a phone call. Yeah.
But I do like the process, and a lot of that includes drawing. Because it's my happy place.
Yeah.
And it's medicinal to me.
Yeah.
And so I do it. My greatest, because we are so busy and there's so many meetings and staff asking questions and all that sort of stuff. My days are hectic, and travel and going to all these places. My days are hectic. My finest day is when I realize that there's nothing scheduled and I can sit there and draw.
Yep.
And draw. And everybody knows to leave me alone.
Yeah.
That I'm basically at church.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm praying right now, and they all know it. They all know it.
I'm 100% with you on that. The days where you just get to draw and time stands still, and your mind's ranging through you're building it in your mind. I mean, you're doing this process, and in doing it, you're going, oh, you corner yourself, or you go, oh, hold on a second. If I do that, I'm going to end up with this. Yeah, okay. Well, I need to get this bit down, but now I need to go back and solve that bit. And I think it maybe is the ADHD. I can't often move beyond solving a piece to something further. I've got, hold on. This is not working. Therefore, what can I do? And I love to break my own design. I love to go, so what if they asked for, and they never would. They'd never even think of asking for that. And then I go, okay, just rip another piece of trace and come up with that. What would I learn from doing that? And it's like, oh yeah. But I'll be 2 hours later, 3 hours later, and I'll go, yeah, back to the old idea. But that fun of running down another road, that maybe I might discover one point from, or nothing from, or it might shift everything, is so joyful.
If I'm working, which I love working crossword puzzles. If I'm working a crossword puzzle, I don't just skip around and answer stuff.
You start
in one area and I move this way. And if I get stuck, which is inevitable, I won't jump around. What I do, and I do the same thing with design, is I get up and leave it.
Yep.
I just
take a walk.
I go for a walk, or even people who are painters and things like that. They do the same thing.
Yeah.
Is you take a walk, you let your mind relax a little bit, and then you come back and you look at it totally differently.
I always think of,
and then the answer comes.
Yes. Do you know Eckhart Tolle, the spiritual guy? So God is in the silence. God's in between the words. And whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, it doesn't really matter. I've got a great friend in LA. She calls it the Godiverse, for the universe people and the God people. But when you give it space and you take that pause, you're allowing something greater than yourself to come to your rescue. And you get it. It happens. It happens every time. And I know for me, it'll be like, sometimes it'll be a walk outside. Sometimes it'll be just a journey to the coffee cup. Sometimes it'll be to the fridge. Sometimes it'll be another thing that needs to be done. And I'll just go, oh, it won't be drawing. It'll be something else. And I'll go, I'll just do that. And then I'll come back to this. But giving space for it to happen is, or for it to be, not happen, for it to be, I think is really important.
And that's where a lot of the artistry of architecture comes in. Just that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, I've got two last questions. One is your surname? And we started this way before, and I said, don't tell me any more of that story. I want to ask you. Yeah. So your surname comes from a small English town.
Yes. I've been told. I've not been there, but yes, there is a little town called Tankersley, England, and I think it's last time I looked, it was like, I'm sure it's still there. It will be like north. I think it was northeast of London or something like that. And I have been there. I've been there on Google Maps.
Yeah.
And it's not very impressive. but apparently there's a bunch of us around the country, and we all came from that town, originally from two brothers who came to the United States.
I was about
But
to say, so two brothers immigrated to the
two brothers
US.
came to the United States, and they were the origins of all of us at some point.
Yeah,
And
wow.
there's a crappy manor house there that's not very pretty, and it's
But that was
basically
probably their home, was it? Was the manor
uh,
house their home? Maybe like
yeah, it's like Tankersley
the
Manor,
yeah,
probably.
yeah, right. Maybe there's some
But
inheritance tax you need to be paying.
it's not a pretty one though. I don't want it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't want to inherit that.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
it requires way too much work.
I find it really fascinating, So you're second generation American.
Oh no, I
So
had
are
never.
those two brothers, those two brothers weren't your grandparents? They were beyond
Oh no,
that?
no, no, no. This was a long time ago. This was like in
Oh.
in the 1600s or something like
Oh,
that.
really? So they were really
Yeah.
early settlers
Oh
to
yeah, yeah,
America.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And
Ah,
so
okay.
no, so I am, I've never done 23andMe because I kind of know where I came from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I have a story about where my name comes from, which I think is I've never told it on the podcast, and this is why I wanted to hear your one. I have been to the town where my name comes from. However, my name is Adrian Ramsey, but Ramsey
Uh-huh.
isn't my name. My father changed his name. And
Oh
so
wow.
when we were saying about, yours being Tanksley, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's a cool name and it's got a bit of history there. My my family name is Ram's Bottom. Now my father, yeah, exactly. My father had the
That was a smart name to change.
damn damn dad, you did the right thing. You did the right
You could
thing.
be Adrian Sheepbud.
That's it. That's why he got called sheep's ass, sheep butt, all these things. So he changed his name when not legally, illegally, like just by taking it back when he was like a young teenager.
Uh-huh.
And here's an interesting thing. So there's a town north of Manchester in England called Ramsbottom.
Okay.
And that town is a beautiful little village town. And I have been a number of times. And the Ramsbottoms, there were two families in that town that
Hmm.
I suppose controlled it. They were the farmers, they were the wealth of the town. One was the
Yes.
Ramsbottom and one was the Littons. And if I look
Uh-huh.
in my family tree, they intermarried a number
Oh
of
yeah,
times
sure.
over the many years. And
Yeah.
so we have Littons and Ramsbottoms, but the town is called Ramsbottom, and it is a pretty little town with a
Mhm.
hellish name. Um, and so then
It makes a better town name.
yeah, it does. You're not wrong about that. We actually, in my family, so my daughters and that, we have a group, a WhatsApp group called Ramsbottoms.
Yeah.
That's a WhatsApp group. That's our private family WhatsApp is Ramsbottoms.
That's
But
cute.
with it, my dad changed his name to Ramsey, and then he had brothers and sisters. His brother is dead, and the Ramsbottom name died with his brother. My dad became a Ramsey, and I have a sister who became a Benton because she took her husband's name, not
Hmm?
Ramsey. I
Right.
have a brother who has no children, and I have two daughters. So when we look back on a family tree in the future, like my great grandkids or whatever they'll
Yeah.
be, they will see that there was one little sidebar
Uh-huh.
of just two generations that were Ramsey, or me and my children. That will be it, and then their names will maybe not. I mean, times have changed, but they may keep Ramsey, but otherwise it will die in one generation. And
Oh wow.
thankfully, it will be recorded somewhere, because somewhere somebody's going to be called something else, and they're going to go back through the family tree, and they will be so removed from Ramsbottom that they probably won't be in the WhatsApp group. That's the thing. It's but
Well,
I love history like that.
I did meet one Tankersley one time. He was a retired general, and he was very he thought a lot of himself. And we were talking. He said, "I think you're from that branch of the family that were only invited to parties, never weddings."
And you went, hell yes, hell
Yeah, that's
yes.
fine. That's fine.
Uh, I love that. I love that insight. And I think that we should set up a meeting in the town of Tankersley, and pretend we
I
want
think
to
you,
buy the manor.
Adrian, I think you'd be sorely disappointed in.
Do you know what? I'm going to look up where it is, and because I've got
Okay.
a job in the UK, later this year I'll be going to the UK, and if it's anywhere near close, I'm going to
Come out
go.
there,
I'm going
send me
to
a
go.
postcard.
Yeah, I will send you. Oh no,
Buy me a t-shirt.
I'll be FaceTiming you. I don't know that they're going to have a t-shirt. Yeah. Uh, Greg, thank you so much, man. It has been
You're
so
welcome.
fabulous, and there's so much more we could talk about. And I really, really appreciate your time. And beyond that, I appreciate the work that you do, because
Oh, well,
I
thank you.
think you are leaving legacy of value and of quality, and you're you guys as a firm are creating the things that will be observed in hundreds of years' time, that the value was put there, that
Yeah.
it is significant work that leaves a significant sense of footprint on the earth. And the more people that do what you're doing in that sense, and take and approach it the way you approach it, the
Well,
philosophy and the
thank you.
psychology is
Over the
brilliant.
over the years, we have because a lot of we've had a lot of people who've left us and started their own firms, and so we've single-handedly created an entire almost branch of sort of Southern architecture.
Yeah. Yeah.
From people that have kind of studied under us and went under us. And I remember talking to my partner Bobby one time, and if somebody had just left, and I said, it's kind of crappy because we're sort of creating our own competition. And he said, Greg, you could look at it that way, but he said the way I look at it is sort of they're taking what we are doing now and taking it out. And he said that's great. It's spreading, and there's plenty of work for all of us.
Yeah.
But he said the other thing is, he said it keeps us on our toes, because he said when they left, they only know what we knew then. They don't know what we're going to do next. And he said
Oh,
it keeps us from just sitting on our
laurels,
laurels,
resting on your
dialing it
laurels.
and dialing it in and just doing another one of those because that's what we do. There, which is great because my partner and I bore easily, and so we're always kind of like seeing what we can do next, or seeing what we can do differently, or seeing what two things we could put together next. It's gonna create some new spark of something, and so it keeps us excited in what we're doing
I love that.
in our daily work. And it's all about just the goal of continuing to enjoy doing what we're doing, and continue that love
To
that we do.
to that end, Australia's most famous architect and only Pritzker Prize winner is Glenn Murcutt. And you were saying before about, you'll be doing this forever.
Yeah. Yeah. My retirement plan is death.
Yeah. Glenn is, I think, maybe 86 now, and he takes one client a year, and he's got a 5-year waiting list.
Mhm.
And he draws by hand.
Yeah.
And he draws everything. He does his own engineering. He
Uh-huh.
does the lot. And I've been lucky enough to spend like a couple of weeks with Glenn studying in a master class with him and some other great Australian architects. And he doesn't pull his punches, but he's a generous man. And he is always learning. And I look at people like yourself should never stop practicing. You should die with your pencil in your hand.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, because it's significant what you leave behind. And, you know, that journey of that is just so special. And hey, in 20 years' time, you'll only be a better architect than you are now.
Yeah.
That's it. You'll have had 20 years more experience.
Absolutely.
20 more years of the market and dealing with people. And I really see how having that like secondary qualification, you know, with being in psychology serves your clients and yourself and your team beyond anything anybody could ever imagine.
I always tell you know, students, I said, take psychology classes. It will help you immensely.
Well, if it doesn't excite you, then don't be an architect. If the psychology doesn't excite you, do not do architecture.
Yeah, or do airports.
Yeah, go and do something else. Yeah, absolutely. Greg, thank you. I'm going to post all your socials, everything like that. And we didn't even talk through photographs that I've got of your work. We will add those in somewhere in this when we edit, and we'll just be talking behind them. Otherwise, we'll add them to the end for all the YouTube watchers.
Thank you. That's, you know, again, I think I love this conversation because we talked a lot about process, not product. So, you know, that's to me exciting.
I think there's gold in it for anybody who is in this industry and wants to know how to master and create mastery. It's about the people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially in the residential world. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And we will talk again.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks.
My pleasure. My pleasure, man. Absolutely brilliant. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.